Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can be alerted when new content is released. Enjoy the video.
I'm a pragmatist, and if you're telling me something that's science-based, the question that I ask is, how am I going to apply this to my life?
In this speech by Dr. Dispenza, you will find out everything you need to know about how to make changes in your life. You can change your health state, financial state, you can find new love. This knowledge can be applied in every aspect of your life. And it's proven it works. Dr. Dispenza made thousands of brain scans and experiments to prove this. I highly suggest you watch whole video. Take your time and absorb this information. It will worth it. I'm certain Dispenza will leave you speechless. This is the greatest knowledge you will ever learn. If you can understand how life works, you can achieve anything. I hope you will love this video. If you do, hit that subscribe button for more new videos like this and give your thumbs up. Leave us your thoughts and opinions in comments below. Enjoy Dispenza's speech.
So we've done thousands and thousands of HRV measurements. And what we do in our workshops is we give our students a HRV device to wear on their chest with a lead, and we're measuring their heart and how it functions over a 24-hour period of time. And when they walk into a meditation and they sit down, they start the process. We want to see if they're able to sustain that state for an extended period of time. And then when we can see the changes that they make, then we know we can tell them what you're doing is actually correct, keep doing it. Or if they're not doing it well enough, we can give them more information on how to do it better. And so our students then are combining that clear intention with an elevated emotion, is beginning to create changes in their biology. So we've measured the energy of the room with sophisticated instruments, we've measured the energy around people's bodies, we measure the energy centers of their bodies, we've measured neurotransmitters, we've measured epigenetic changes, protein expression. We've done a host of different tests and studies. And I want to talk to you not about all the research because there's not enough time, but I want to talk to you about some of the research that I think that's relevant to the course subject matter. So here we go. The concept that we use is what's called information to transformation. And I believe that if you give people sound scientific information, and they begin to learn that information. Every time they learn something new, there's new synaptic connections that are forged in their brain. That's what learning is. But if they don't repeat that information, if they don't review it, if they don't think about it over and over again, the research shows that those circuits prune apart. So if learning is making new synaptic connections, then remembering or memories are maintaining those connections. So our model is have people retreat from their lives and change their personalities, change how they think, change how they act, and change how they feel, and that's their personality. And their personality is connected to their personal reality. So once they learn that vital information, if they can't turn to the person next to them and explain it, then that model of understanding isn't wired in their brain. But if they can explain it, they begin to build the model of understanding that begins to install the neurological hardware in their brain in preparation for the experience. And the more they understand what they're doing, the more they understand why they're doing it, the how gets a lot easier. So once they have that model clear in their mind, if I can set up the conditions in their environment and give them the proper instruction, if they can get their behaviors to match their intentions or their actions equal to their thoughts, if they can get their mind and body working together, they're going to have some type of physical transformation. So then measuring that transformation, of course, gives me more information to teach transformation. And that's the model that we use. And I now know that combining that clear intention, which is a function of brain coherence, so that they're focused on an idea, a concept, a potential reality, combined with an elevated emotion, that elevated emotion takes them from the stress states of survival into a more elevated state. And now emotions no longer keep us connected to our past, but it's the very fuel that drives us to our future. Not only does it have an effect on our body, but on some level it has effect on the nature of reality. So that's the model that we use. So then when a student begins to embrace an elevated emotion, they're actually signaling the gene ahead of the environment, because when we're talking about the environment, we're talking about the outside of the cell, which is still the inside of the body. So when a person then begins to create an elevated state, their body, as the unconscious mind, is beginning to believe it's living in a new environmental condition, because it does not know the difference between what's happening in their outer world and what's happening in their inner world. It's exactly the same. So in 4 days, we upregulated genes to promote health in our immune system. And the emotions of gratitude, the emotions of love, the emotions of care and kindness and appreciation, of inspiration, tend to be those elevated emotions that actually heal us. Why do we do that study? Because we see people with all kinds of immune-mediated conditions in a very short amount of time improve their genetic expression and improve their health. So we wanted to see if it was related to what we teach in our workshops. And there's a strong correlation now between elevated emotions and gene expression. We also had another study in Tampa in 2017 of this year where we did an advanced workshop and we measured gene expression once again. We measured thousands of genes, and we took people once again, retreated them from their lives. We asked them then to begin to change their internal states. Meditation was the model that we used, but we did 4 types of meditations. We did sitting meditation, we did a standing meditation, we did a walking meditation, we did a lying down meditation. All of those different meditations were to be able to regulate a state, begin to make it more natural and more of a habit. We found that in just 4 days, there was a significant change in gene expression, and 8 genes were the most common amongst the group that we studied. One of the genes that was upregulated was for neurogenesis, not just for new synaptic connections, but the growth of new neurons in response to a novel experience and learning. So then our students then were able to actually make significant brain changes. Another gene for cellular repair was also activated. This particular gene activates stem cells to move to damaged tissues and aging tissues and help to regenerate them. A gene for oxidative balance, for free radical scavenging. Of course, oxidative balance has everything to do with anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. Healthy oxidative balance sustains health in a person's body. Also, we notice a gene that has to do with building cellular structures. The cellular structures called microtubules and cytoskeletons give the cell integrity. So as cells begin to repair, they need a scaffolding to repair onto, and the gene that actually creates cellular structures for healthy cells was also upregulated. We see a lot of times in a lot of our students that cancer begins to change, their values begin to drop, their tumors begin to shrink, and we see in our work that the gene for suppressing cancer growth in tumors was also activated. Most of who we are is about 5% of our conscious mind. And our conscious mind is made up of things like logic and reasoning, which gives rise to our will, our creativity, our faith. The rest of who we are by the time we're 35 years old, 95% of who we are is based on habits, the emotional reactions, the unconscious behaviors, the automatic programs of thinking, our attitudes, our beliefs and perceptions that are functioning like a subconscious computer program. In other words, you've done something so many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your conscious mind. So that's when we get stuck in the habit of being ourselves. So then, how do we get from our conscious mind into the subconscious mind to begin to make those changes? Well, the whole purpose of meditation is to get beyond the analytical mind, slow our brain waves down from our conscious mind, enter the operating system where those problems are taking place, or our limited beliefs, or our unwanted habits, or self-limiting emotional reactions, and begin to reprogram them into more constructive behaviors and emotional states. So, some of us have very thin analytical minds, a very thin veil between our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. The thin veil then allows us to become more suggestible. And suggestibility is our ability to accept, believe, and surrender to information without analyzing it. Some people, or some of us, have a more dense analytical mind, a thicker analytical mind. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, our analytical mind helps us to reason in our life, to navigate, to learn, to discern ethically. It's a healthy thing. But when the hormones of stress are activated, most of us become overly analytical, and that's when we get stuck in high beta brainwave patterns. So then a person who has a more dense or thicker analytical mind has to work a little bit harder to get beyond themselves to enter the operating system. So the more analytical we are, the less suggestible we are to information. The less analytical we are, the less the thinking brain is working, the more suggestible we are to information. So then our job then, as we begin to get beyond the analytical mind, is to begin to slow our brain waves down from high beta to mid-range beta to low-level beta, cross the analytical mind, we enter the alpha brainwave state. Now we're in the realm of the subconscious. And if you can continuously work to slow your brain waves down, over time then, you can move all the way down into deeper states. And that's the job. It's our work in meditation. So we move from beta to alpha, from alpha to theta, and from theta to delta. And beta and alpha represent, for the most part, our conscious mind, and alpha, theta, and delta represent the realm of our subconscious mind. So as we begin to slow our brain waves down, as we begin to move from beta to alpha to theta, there is a movement of consciousness, a flow of consciousness out of the thinking neocortex into the limbic brain, or the subconscious centers of the brain. The subcortical centers of the brain have everything to do with automatic and autonomic function. So now, as we begin to slow the brain waves down and we're entering this subconscious realm, the beauty behind this is we're in the operating system, because the autonomic nervous system controls most of our metabolic functions. So the autonomic nervous system is the system that creates homeostasis and balance. It's the system that does cellular repair, hormonal changes, body temperature. All those different functions are taking place under the auspices of the autonomic nervous system. So as we slow our brain waves down, now we're entering the operating system where we can begin to program it for better function of health. That's the name of the game here when it comes to changing a person's biology. So here's my theory. When you have an internal experience in your mind that carries an amplitude of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional addictions or conditioning in your body, you can be biologically changed. Most people have an experience in their life that has branded them emotionally, that's been traumatic, or some type of betrayal or some type of shock. The experience then begins to emboss the circuits in their brain into a specific pattern. The experience produces a strong emotion. The stronger the emotion, the more the circuits are branded. And of course, the person moves from one state of being into another state of being. And we can say, after that experience, the body and the brain are now in the past. So what happens is we begin to develop beliefs about ourselves and our lives from our past experiences, because we tend to think neurologically and we tend to feel chemically within the boundaries of our biology based on our past memories and experiences. And how you think and how you feel becomes your state of being. And your state of being is your personality. So now the person is bound to their past. So how do we change that? Well, when a person has an inner experience, just like you saw, for example, with the physician from London, it carries an amplitude of energy that's greater than the past external experience, whatever that was in their life. That internal experience then is going to rewire the brain and send a new emotional signal to the body, and it's going to recondition the body out of the past. Now our biology changes, and we can say the past is washed away. The cool thing about that is that that event becomes an experience that the person never forgets. And of course, now their spectrum of reality is changed, because we only perceive reality equal to how our circuits are organized in our brain, and this person has a very different outlook on life after that experience. I never planned on doing any of this. I just never planned on doing any of this. But after my injury and I started studying spontaneous remissions and looking to see if other people had a similar experience as me.
And definition of a spontaneous remission is?
You're treating conventionally or unconventionally, and you're staying the same or you're getting worse, and all of a sudden you get better. And I wanted to know what the cause was that produced that effect. And spontaneous remission is a safe phrase for the medical world because they don't want to correlate it with any indicator, especially if it happens outside of the current belief. So when I studied spontaneous remissions, I traveled to 17 different countries and started asking some really important questions that people had breakthroughs and healed. And I wrote a book about it, and then when I realized what the common things were, I thought, well, if it had worked on sick people, it should work on well people. And so we started teaching seminars and events. So fast forward now, when we started seeing people in our events start healing in a weekend workshop, like tumors shrinking by 40%, hearing coming back. I mean, crazy stuff that you just, for me, I could go with it, but I was like, they got to be signaling genes in order to do this. So then I thought, okay, let's measure. So then I gathered a group of scientists and researchers, and we started doing these advanced workshops. And you know, we measured everything. We measured brainwaves. We've measured HRV, you know, heart rate monitors. We've measured the energy of the room, the energy around people's bodies, the energy centers of their bodies. We've measured immune response. We've measured neurotransmitters. We've measured gene expression, gene regulation. We've measured telomere lengths. And in every single experiment that we've done around measuring our students in these 4.5-day events, what we call advanced workshops, we made history because we started seeing things that were just uncommon. So
that even surprised you.
Well, this is where it gets weird. So because I said, I understand that, I can see how that could happen, but then I realized that when we were doing 4-day events, like on that Saturday or Sunday when the event was ending, I was like, my goodness, everybody is totally broken through. The energy is amazing. People are super free. What if I had them for 3 more days? So I changed the whole model this year, and now all the weekend workshops are on an online course. They're called progressive workshops. I don't teach the 4-day advanced workshops, I teach the week-long advanced workshops. So now we've done 2 advanced week-long advances. And you know, people are standing in front of a camera. I didn't even see these people start talking about their disease or their condition, and in one instant in those events, people stepping out of wheelchairs. We had 3 people in our last week-long step out of a wheelchair. Now, I was very, very surprised in witnessing this. People, you know, that came with crutches and, 2 crutches or walking without crutches with peripheral neuropathy where they couldn't feel their feet, spinal cord injuries. I mean, it just turned into this insane, like it was miraculous. And when I asked at the end of the event, how many people have had a healing or change in their health condition, I thought maybe I would see, like, in our second event, a group of 850 people, I thought maybe we'd see like 20. It was like 150 people that stood up. And we started passing the mic around, and stories were outstanding. I mean, some latent systems must have been switching on in these people's bodies because they walked out of there completely different than when they arrived. Now, half of it is getting people past that point. The other half is just the fact that as the energy starts to change, I mean, every time you react, you draw from an invisible field of energy surrounding your body and you turn it into chemistry. And the vital field of energy that's being emitted from your body shrinks a little bit. Keep reacting every single day because of some threat in your external environment, real or imagined. You keep doing that, you draw more and more energy from the field, and you have no vital energy for growth and repair. In fact, you feel like you're more like matter and less like energy, more like particle and less like wave. And when we're driven by the hormones of stress, which is about 70% of the time for most people, we force outcomes. We control outcomes. We try to predict outcomes. We fight for outcomes. We manipulate outcomes because we're matter trying to change matter. And there's only a certain amount of things you can do, right? You compete, you do all those things. But So when people start to open their heart and they start creating an elevated state, and you can train people how to do this, and we measure it, the heart begins to beat in a more coherent way. It begins to produce a measurable magnetic field, 2 to 3 meters wide. That's frequency, that's energy, and all frequency carries information. So now the person lays the intent, the thought on that frequency. And the more elevated the emotion, it makes sense that that thought can only be carried by an emotion that's equal to that thought. In other words, you can't feel unworthy and have the thought of abundance. That energy or suffering, that thought can't be carried on that energy. It's got to be carried by an elevated state.
So if you believe that your thoughts somehow are connected to your life, then the same thoughts always lead to the same choices. The same choices always lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same experiences, and the same experiences produce the same emotions. And those very same emotions drive the very same thoughts. And your biology, your neurocircuitry, your neurochemistry, your neurohormones, and even your genetic expression is equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. So then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, then you would have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You would have to become aware of your unconscious thoughts and observe them. You would have to pay attention to your automatic habits and behaviors and modify them. And you would have to look at the emotions you live by every single day that are connected to your past and decide if those emotions belong in your future. You see, most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. You literally have to become someone else. So your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of all the things you've learned and experienced to this moment. So if you wake up every morning and get out of bed on the same side, shut the alarm clock off with the same finger, shuffle into the bathroom and use the toilet like you always do, go and get a cup of coffee and drink coffee out of your favorite mug, then get in the shower and wash yourself off in the same routine way, drive to work, get to work, see the same people that push the same emotional buttons, do the same things that you've memorized and do so well, then hurry up and go home, and hurry up and check your emails, and hurry up and check your Facebook, and then watch your favorite television show, then hurry up and go to bed. Here's my question. Did your brain change at all that day? We could say that you were thinking the same thoughts, performing the same unconscious actions, living by the same emotions, but secretly expecting your life to change. So there's a principle in neuroscience. And the principle says, nerve cells that fire together wire together. So if you're thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, reproducing the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, and then produce the same emotions, you're going to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature. Because as you fire and wire the same circuits in the same way, those circuits begin to become more connected. And by the time you're 35 years old, this is science now, We become a set of memorized behaviors, unconscious habits, automatic emotional reactions, beliefs and perceptions, and even attitudes that function just like a computer program. And if you do something over and over and over again, the repetition of those actions over time conditions your body to know how to do it well better than your mind. And a habit is when your body knows better than your mind, where you've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it better than the brain. And so 95% of most people's behaviors, attitudes, thoughts, beliefs, emotional reactions are subconscious programs. So why is that important? Because you're here this week to learn new information. And every time you learn something new, you make new connections in your brain. That's what learning is. Learning is forging new synaptic connections. Physical evidence as a result of your interaction in the environment and the footprints of consciousness is called learning, making new connections. Life is about the management of energy. And where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And if your attention is on the knowns and in the predictable future, or your attention is on the familiar emotions of the past, you are siphoning energy out of the present moment, and you have no energy to create with. Getting people beyond their identity, getting people beyond their past, getting people beyond predicting their future, getting people beyond their faces or their wardrobes or their sports cars or their importance, getting beyond all those things is when they begin to make contact with the quantum field. You can't enter the quantum field as a somebody. You have to enter as a nobody. And when you're able to do this and practice it really well, you will begin to do what's innately your birthright, and that is to create an unknown or wonderful experience in your life. So it just takes practice in order to do it.